there and welcome. I'm so glad you decided to join me today for some stamping and crafting fun. This is Laura Lynn with Keep Inking Up. Today I have a one-layer card to share with you today, and we're going to be using our blending brushes. If you're familiar with me at all, if you're a subscriber, thank you for subscribing. But if you are familiar with me, you know that I like to make one-layer cards using our thick basic white cardstock. So this card base is cut 4 1/4 by 11, scored and folded in half at 5 1/2. I have several videos on how I cut my card bases in layers, so please be sure to check those out if you have time. But today we are going to be stamping with the Bee My Valentine stamp set. But the idea is the idea that I want to get across today is the layout and the adding of ink with our blending brushes. And you'll see I'm going to share some videos. I'm going to share some card samples at the end of this video, so be sure to stay to the end, and you'll see how I have used these same ideas in different card layouts with different stamp sets. You can use this with any stamps that you have in your collection. So don't be shy to use what you have. So again, I'm going to be using our blending brushes. If you're not familiar with our blending brushes, they come in packs of 3. I own 15. It is not in my budget to have one brush for every ink color. So this is my yellow brush. I use it for my daffodil ink and any other yellow ink pads that I have in my collection. I just want to let you know that you don't have to have one for every ink color. And all I do is, in between using different inks, I just wipe it off on a microfiber. You can tell I've used this quite a bit. I just take off as much ink as possible, and that cleans it well enough, as long as you stay within the same color family. As long as I'm using yellow, I'll be just fine. I do tend to take off as much ink as possible on scratch paper first as well. You can wash these if you would like, and you can tell I think that this one has been washed, but I want to warn you, when you do that, what I've discovered is you need to let them air dry, and when they air dry, they get a little bit stiffer. This one is still really very soft, but it's not as soft as it was when it was brand new. So I do recommend that you try not to wash them with water, because it will change the softness of the bristle. So again, like I said, you can just wipe it off on your rag, and I don't have any problems with that. So learn from my experience that you don't have to keep washing them. So anyway, we're going to use daffodil ink on this particular card, and what I'm going to do, and I think I've showed this in other videos, but I'm going to pick up some ink, and I just want to add a soft yellow background on the top, say like 2/3 of my card base. And I'm going to take off a little bit of ink on my scratch paper because I don't want to get a blob on my card base. And then I'm going to hold the brush really far back on the handle because I just want a light touch. I want to just barely touch my paper with that ink because I want a really super soft yellow background. Now, please stay tuned to the end of the video. I'm going to share a series of cards that I've made using these same ideas, so you can see that you don't have to use a particular stamp set or colors or anything like that. But you'll also see that you can use as much intensity of ink as you want. In this particular card, I just want a really soft yellow glow. So keep in mind that you can add more ink, but you cannot take it away. So let's see, I think I might add just a little bit more ink there in the center. So I'm going to pick up more ink, take some off, and again, just add a little bit in the center there. I just want a really soft glow. It's kind of in the middle of my card, the top 2/3 of my card, because I want to leave room for my sentiment. The general idea of the layout is to have my my image toward the top of the card, and then my sentiment toward the bottom of my card. And that's going to be the same layout on all of my card samples I'm going to share with you. I think that that's good. It's a very soft background, but I think that's all I want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and close up my ink pad before I stick my finger in it. Next, I'm going to bring over my stamps. Over here, I've got some stem stamps that I want to use from this stamp set, and I'm going to stamp those in garden green ink. And I'm going to use, let's see, I'm going to use this stem for the middle flower, and I'm going to stamp 3 flowers. It's good to stamp things in 3s. It's just a design tip that is really handy. Then I'm going to take the other stem image, and I'm going to stamp that over to the right. This one curves over to the right, so I'm going to go back to my first one, ink it up, and stamp it over to the left. Okay, that looks nice. I'll go ahead and close this up. And next I want to add some flowers, and for that I'm going to use our Berry Burst color. And I'm going to use the open flower. There are 2 flowers in this stamp set. I'm going to ink that up, and I'm going to put an open flower here on the far right. And then I'll stamp another one, or ink another one up and stamp it onto the far left. Okay, and then I have a closed flower image, so I'm going to ink that up and stamp that in the center. Okay, and while I have this ink out, I'm going to go ahead and do my sentiment. My sentiment says, "I love you no matter what." So I'm going to ink up my stamp. If you follow me, you know that I have some tips on how to stamp your sentiment straight. So I've mounted my block in the manner that I have explained, and I'm going to stamp that right there on the bottom. Again, that's the general layout of the card, the stamped image toward the top 2/3 of the card with the sentiment on the bottom third. And then because this says "I love you no matter what," I thought I would add the grouping of the 3 little hearts, but I don't want them to stand out too much, so I don't want to stamp them in the pink. I'm going to stamp them in the yellow so they go with that nice glowy background that we have going on there. So I'm going to open that up, and again I'm going to stamp this grouping of 3 hearts in a group of 3. So I'm going to stamp one here, and I'll stamp one over here, and then I'll finally stamp one over here. So they're groups of 3s in kind of a triangular shape, and there you have it. There is a clean and simple 1-layer card that has a stamped image toward the top 2/3 and then the sentiment on the bottom third. So let me go ahead and share with you some other samples using these same ideas. This one you can see I used the same daffodil ink, but I added a bit more intensity to it. I have the sentiment on the bottom, and then I added, instead of stamping on it, I did add a die cut that I have stamped and colored with my Stampin' Blends. I also added a few little adhesive backed sequins just to kind of step it up a little bit. So there's one idea. You also don't need to keep to a small area. This one I did the blending brush on a much larger area, almost the top 2/3, almost a solid background. Kind of looks like a sky. I used the blue behind the tree, which again is a die cut that's been stamped, and this one used blending brushes to fill in because this particular bundle, this Frosted Forest bundle, has masks, coloring masks that you can use to color the stamped images rather than having to use blends like I did on this one. Next one, I used the Trusty Tools bundle. Modified this one again a little bit. I almost added ink around the entire card front, and then I did a little bit of splatters, ink splatters. The sentiment is still toward the bottom, but it's over to the right a little bit because I wanted to add more tools from that Trusty Tools set. So isn't that cute? I think that'd be great to give to my daughter. And then finally, here is another card sample. This uses the Tuned In bundle, and this one, the sentiment, I just happened to stamp in the TV because I just fit the image a little bit better there. But you can still see the yellow glow that I have behind the TV that I added with the same blending brush idea. And then I added some stamps on there, and then here's the inside where again I did that soft background. And there's room to write. So anyway, I wanted to share all those ideas with you. I hope that you learned something new and will have some fun with your stamping, and I hope you use this layout. Thanks again so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.